So you've just downloaded a new indie game called Slay the Spire. You may have tried a run or two, but failed miserably, and now you're thinking, even though this game has incredible reviews, that you may have just dumped some hard-earned money down the drain. If you're in this situation, or new to Deckbuilders or Roguelikes, then this guide is for you. Together, we're going to cover what this game is, what makes it special, and we'll have an in-depth look at some key mechanics to give you a better understanding of the game next time you dive in to give it a shot. So what kind of game is Slay the Spire? Let's take a look at the game's description on its Steam page. We fused card games and roguelikes together to make the best single-player deck builder we could. Craft a unique deck, encounter bizarre creatures, blah 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 blah. There's a lot in here to unpack to get an understanding of what it is that we're dealing with here. Let's start with roguelike. A roguelike game quite literally means it's like Rogue, which is a game from 1980 that defined the genre with a few key points. First and foremost, for all roguelike games, is that the game has permadeath, which means if you die, it's game over, back to the beginning. It doesn't matter if you're 5 minutes or 50 hours into the game. If it's a roguelike and you die, game over. Second, which is a big factor into what makes roguelikes so popular, is that they are procedurally generated. That means you'll never encounter the game exactly the same way twice. Each time you enter an area, the next available rooms are randomly generated. You may have a choice of what kind of encounter you go to next, but the game will generate that based on a predetermined set of options, known as a seed. Roguelike games have become increasingly popular over the past several years, spanning across multiple genres. Slay the Spire is widely considered to be the best when it comes to deck building roguelites. Yes, you heard that correctly, I said roguelite, not roguelike. So what's the difference? Roguelites are a subgenre of roguelike that take it just a tiny bit easier on players. Any items that you unlock during your playthrough of a roguelite are available for you to use in subsequent playthroughs, assuming, of course, your random event generator brings you to them. So now we know what a roguelike is. What's a deck builder? A deck building game is a tabletop or video game where the key gameplay mechanics are built around building and using a deck of cards. Rather than fast-paced action sequences, a deck builder is very strategic, often involving complex calculations to determine the order and outcome of play. Now that we know what Slay the Spire is, let's take a deeper look into how the game plays. Players start each run by selecting one of 4 character archetypes, which we'll dive into a bit later. Each character starts with a basic deck of cards, and throughout play you have the option to add, upgrade, remove, and transform cards into something else. This is the deck building mechanic of the game. While each character has unique cards to his or her deck, no matter which character you choose, you'll encounter one of 5 types of cards that will be added in. You have attack cards, which are the main sources of dealing damage directly to your foes. Skill cards allow you to do things like block incoming damage, buff your character, debuff an enemy, or manipulate play in some way. Power cards present a new or modified gameplay mechanic that lasts throughout the end of combat. Status cards are temporarily added into your deck that may deal damage to you or just reduce your chance of drawing the cards you need. And curse cards are permanent additions to the deck that have some powerful negative effects each time they're drawn. The card type is shown here between the graphic and the text. Attack, skill, and power cards can be found in one of 3 rarities: common, uncommon, and rare. Like any card game, the more rare a card is, the more it can give you a boost for a better chance at winning. Each card can also be upgraded to make it even more powerful. Cards are played by spending the appropriate amount of energy designated here based on your available pool as seen here. The second part of deck building in Slay the Spire are relics. Unlike cards, relics are carried by the character and provide consistent, reliable modifiers to gameplay. Each character starts off with a unique class-specific relic, and you find more throughout the Spire by opening chests, buying from shops, and taking down stronger monsters. Relics can do anything from healing you at the beginning or end of combat, giving you extra energy to play more cards, or preventing you from taking debuffs. Each time you start a run at the bottom of the spire, you're greeted by Neow. Based on the success or failure of your previous run, and random chance, Neow will offer you a blessing to start off your run. At any given time, you can check the map for which of the 3 acts you're on to plan your path ahead and make more well-informed decisions when it comes to picking Neow's blessings or cards. So let's take a look at the map. When you open the map screen, you can see all available paths from where you are that lead up to the boss of your current act. Each act ends in one of 3 bosses, which have their own video coming soon, keep an eye out for that. The boss you'll face at the end is denoted by its own symbol, so you know from floor 1 how to shape your deck to take down the boss of that act. The path you take to the top is completely up to you. On the map, you have random elements that can be anything from finding rare items to fighting monsters or finding gold. Elite fights are strong mini-bosses that grant you extra gold, rare cards, and a relic when you defeat them. Shops allow you to purchase certain cards, relics, and potions, or remove a single card from your deck by spending gold. Campfires provide the option to rest and regain a portion of your total health, or allow you to upgrade a card of your choice. And finally, you'll come across monster rooms, which give you a standard way of playing the cards in your deck against an assortment of enemies. Before we move on to enemy encounters, if you like this style of video, I'd love for you to leave me a caw-caw down in the comments section. Combat is turn-based, and on each turn you draw a set amount of cards based on what relics you have, and play those cards against a number of monsters. Each monster displays over its head the intended attack against you. You may have damage dealt to you directly, as shown here, which means you need to block to keep from losing health. Enemies may also buff themselves, as seen here, or they may debuff you, as shown here. If you ever forget what the symbols mean, you can always select the enemy during combat to get a hint. Any buffs or debuffs applied to you or to the enemy show up as symbols below the character, and those can also be selected to let you know what it is that each one does. Reduce an enemy's health to 0 before they do the same to you, and you win the combat. Each enemy encounter gives you the option to choose one of 3 cards to add into your deck. I'll go into deck building strategies in a later video, but to be brief, many cards are designed to interact with each other in positive ways that makes them stronger together than on their own. This is called synergy, and most cards will have some kind of synergy with other cards and relics. The key to building the best decks in the game is to find the best cards and relics that synergize together against the boss of whichever act you're against. Eventually, the path you follow will lead you to the boss, which is a powerful enemy encounter that will test your deck's ability to deal damage, block, and manipulate play over a series of multiple turns. If you win, you are granted access to the next floor, filled with more powerful monsters and better rewards. Defeating a boss also rewards you with a rare card and a choice of a special boss-only relic. These cards and relics, above most others, have the chance to provide you the opportunity for great synergies and creative deck building ideas to take you further on the next act. If you make it all the way through Act 3 without dying, you face the final boss. Act 3 bosses are the toughest and really test your ability to build a deck with the purpose of taking down enemies that have powerful counters against your own. Win or lose anywhere on the map, and you get a score for your run. Each character unlocks more powerful cards and some special relics as you level up, which can be found in any later runs. But when you do lose, it's game over and your deck is lost, and it's back to the character selection screen to try again. This is where we'll pick up next time, as together we will embark on our first attempt to slay the Spire. If you're interested in more in the meantime, feel free to check out my Slay the Spire playlist with many tips and tricks, or check out this video that YouTube thinks is best for you. Coming soon, we'll have complete beginner's guide to the first act, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon.